More than 2,300 people have been killed in the latest round of the Palestine-Israel conflict as the ongoing conflict between the two sides intensifies. The new round of conflict has led to massive casualties on both sides. To talk more about this, we are now joined by the Ambassador of Palestine to South Africa, Hanan Jarrar. Ambassador, once again, good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us. Tell us about what the situation currently is in Palestine.
Good morning again, and thank you for hosting us. Unfortunately, I have to talk to you in a very heavy heart for what's going on back home. For the fifth day consecutively, the Palestinian population has been targeted by the Israeli occupying power. Last night, there has been a kind of escalation on the way the war it is going on since the Israeli aircraft start to bombing Palestinian residential communities without even warning, which makes the casualties from the Palestinian civilians even higher. Since the beginning of the Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people, more than 1,200 Palestinians have been killed, 5,000 has been injured, 60% of them are women and children. Because of the mass destruction that has been done by the Israeli aircraft, unfortunately, more than 300,000 Palestinians have been displaced from their homes since 5 days, and they are taking UNRWA schools as shelters. In a genocidal announcement, yesterday, the Minister of Defense of Israel announced that there will be no food, no electricity supplies, no water supplies allowed to Gaza, and this makes it even the humanitarian situation is even worse and worse. Unfortunately, since the morning there is no electricity in Gaza, and by these hours I do believe that even hospitals cannot capacitate more people because there is no electricity, and they will be running out of fuel. Unfortunately, this is the situation on the ground now, and in a drastic escalation also, the Israeli occupying power decided to cut off water and electricity supplies from the Palestinian prisons, from the Palestinian prisoners inside the Israeli prisons, which also lies down the Israeli collective punishment against the Palestinian people. Unfortunately, this is the humanitarian situation now. Even yesterday, Israeli targeted Rafah crossing border, bombing it in a sign for Egypt and any other country who would love to enter humanitarian aid to Gaza not to do so. The only safe passage that was open and announced by the Israeli authorities is the passage from Gaza to go out in a clear message for Palestinians that what's going on is a real genocide and is a real transfer. Either you die in Gaza, which has been under blockade for 15 years, you know this, or you go out your country. This is what's going on up to this moment.
Yeah. Yesterday, we spoke to the ambassador of Israel to South Africa, Ambassador Bolotoskovsky, and he's arguing that as far as they're concerned, the IDF is only targeting buildings where they know that Hamas operations are underway. From the assessment that you have and from the information at your disposal, is that really the case?
This is absolutely not the case, and we do not use propaganda, we use live footage. The videos, the pictures that are coming from Gaza are real, and it's not an Israeli propaganda or like the propaganda that they use. All the casualties are from Palestinian innocent civilians. 60% of the people who were killed and injured are women and infants and children. This is the reality, and we have all the proof of this. Unless the ambassador believes that Hamas militias include everyone, including children and women.
Yeah. What's the way forward now? The Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, is expected to travel to the Middle East. I understand that we'll also be meeting with your leader. What message is it that Palestine will be putting forward? And also considering that before leaving the USA, Anthony Blinken said that I'm going with a very simple and clear message that the United States has Israel's back.
Unfortunately, this is the message that the international community is receiving from supposedly a peace broker in the Middle East. A peace broker should stand on the same distance from all parties, from Palestinians and from the Israelis. Unfortunately, what is happening now is that UK is fully backing and occupying power. And this tells us about the honesty of the peace broker, the US. The way forward, as you were talking, first of all, the international community should shoulder their responsibility and providing protection for the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people in Gaza has been slaughtered by the occupying power. They have been taken hostages for more than 15 years in unfair, unjust blockade, complete blockade for Gaza for more than 15 years. Palestinian people has been living in very drastic humanitarian conditions during these years. You know that Gaza is an open air prison. It's 2 kilometers that accommodate 2 million people. So after all these measures, what do we expect from the Gazans people? They have been suffocated into small pentastans for more than 15 years. So the result is talking about itself right now. The international community should hold the Israeli war criminals accountable for their deeds. Their deeds, collective punishment, targeting civilians, expanding settlements on the expense of the Palestinian citizens is amount to war crimes under the international law. Resistance and even armed resistance is guaranteed by the international law since as long as the people are under occupation. The international community should take their responsibility towards providing a peaceful solution for the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people has to enjoy ending the occupation, to enjoy ending the last apartheid in the modern century. This is what this is the way forward. The way forward is to visit the cause of the illness, which is the occupation, to terminate it, to end it, and not every now and then to look at the symptoms and try to find a solution for the symptoms. The illness is there, we have to terminate it. The occupation should come to an end. The Palestinian people has to live in dignity, in peace, as all the people around the world.
Well, the Israelis are arguing that Hamas wants to wipe out all Jews, all Israelis in Israel, and that's the reason that they are retaliating and you have this conflict, and they say that they want to wipe out all of the members of Hamas, but as we know that there are innocent civilians as well that are then attacked in this crossfire. What message is it that President Mahmoud Abbas will be sending to the to the U.S. state? Will be sending to the Biden administration around how the Biden administration has responded to this conflict, and also now that the Biden administration has said that they will make armaments available, including fighter jets?
Unfortunately, what the Israelis talk about, Hamas want to wipe out the Israelis is incorrect. Well, we never heard such a statement going out from anyone of Hamas leaders or any one of the PA leaders or any Palestinian. It's not our ethics and it's not our principles. Unfortunately, what we were hearing since the beginning of the year by the Israeli fascist ministers and the government symbols is that many incidents in Hawara village, Smotrich, their minister, their fascist minister, who is proud to being fascist, he says that this town, Hawara town, should be wiped out. Netanyahu said recently, Gaza should be wiped out so that the Gazans would learn how to deal with the Israeli occupation forces. The Minister of Defense, the Israeli Minister of Defense, he made a genocidal statement saying that we are facing human animals. This gives an idea about who is dealing with who, how the Israelis are approaching Palestinians as human animals, as people has no right to live, as that the Palestinians should be wiped out from the map. And this was clear in front of the whole international community in the United Nations General Assembly lately, when Netanyahu held a map that showing the new Middle East without even referring to the word Palestine, as he is neglecting 7 million Palestinian people living in their indigenous land. So we cannot say that Hamas want to wipe out. It's the Israelis who's by proof wanting and working on wiping out Palestinians from the map and from their own indigenous land. As for President Abbas, his message is clear and there is no doubt about it. His message is based on international law and international legitimacy. Any people under the occupation, they have all the right to use all the measures in their hand to defend themselves. This is the message of President Abbas, this is the message of the Palestinian Authority, and this is the message of Palestinians, 7 million inside Palestine, 7 million outside Palestine.
Ambassador, would you agree that there have been some tactical mistakes as well that have been committed by the PLO as the authority in Palestine in relation to Resolution 242, and that has now led to the militants like Hamas, for instance, taking control of Gaza, and also people finding more confidence in them vis-a-vis the confidence that has been shown in the PLO? Do you take any accountability at all that there have been some tactical mistakes that have been committed by the PLO?
We should always assume responsibility. We are in a very difficult context, in a very difficult situation that we need to abide by international law, but at the same time, we are under an apartheid regime. So definitely there has been some tactical, not strategical falls and downfalls, let's say, but this does not give the international community any excuse to abandon the Palestinian people, not to provide protection for them, not to end the Israeli occupation, and not to hold the Israeli war criminals accountable for their deeds. The solution is very clear for the international community. As we engaged in the peace process in 1994, they have to pressure Israel to fulfill its commitment according to the Oslo Peace Accord. As Palestinians, we want to live in peace, but not under apartheid. We want to live in human dignity, but not under occupation.
Yep.
You know, you have been as South Africans under apartheid and under occupation, and you know what dehumanization this involved.
Yeah. So with that said, around the tactical mistakes as well, is right now, for instance, Palestinian authorities are even struggling to condemn Hamas and what Hamas did over the weekend.
Why the victim has to condemn himself?
Yeah. So you speak about
Have you
children.
asked any Israeli? Have you asked any Israeli minister or leader or fascist to condemn their occupation to the Palestinian lands? Why it's always the Palestinians, the victims, who has to condemn? We are people under occupation who defend ourselves against our occupier. According to international law, even armed resistance that hasn't been used for quite a long time since Oslo.
Yep.
Is a legitimate instrument for people under occupation.
Does it not make it more difficult, Ambassador?
Has anyone ever asked Netanyahu to condemn his acts against the Palestinian people?
Yes, Ambassador, those calls have been made.
Openly.
those calls have been made by the international community as well. But the question that I'm asking, that in the absence of condemning Hamas, for instance, of what happened over the weekend, where you also had children who were killed and civilians that were killed, is that there seems to be this sort of response that lacks empathy towards the Palestinians as well, for at least from some international communities. And does Hamas' strategy at all make it more difficult for the Palestinian authorities to find a solution?
As I mentioned, Hamas is not part of the Palestinian Authority. Hamas is a resistance movement, and it's a political party also. And diversity inside the Palestinian community is something healthy. It's not something bad. Someone choose. Hamas is in Gaza. Gaza has been under blockade for 15 years with no access to normal life. And they are under the Israeli occupation. And according to international law, according to international legitimacy, what they are doing is legitimate. Like, they were not going to Israeli cities and taking hostages from Israeli civilians. They went to settlements around Gaza. Settlements, according to international law, are considered illegal. Settlers, according to international law, are illegal people who has been deported to the lands confiscated from their indigenous people and deported there. This bringing settlers to settlements, according to international law, is amount to war crimes.
Yeah.
This is the situation that we have to look at. Hamas did not attack civilians, they attacked settlers. Settlers and settlements are not accepted by international law. Again, we have to look at the illness itself. We should not look only at the symptoms. The Palestinian Authority, Palestinians, they have been calling the international community since the beginning of this year, since the establishment of the Israeli most ultra-right-wing government, that this attitude of and this clear crystal agenda for the ultra-right-wing government will lead to this result. You cannot suffocate people and then expect peace. You cannot plant war, dehumanization, aggression, oppression, and expect peace to prevail.
Yeah. Ambassador, does it concern you at all that this conflict is now also leading to anti-Semitism? We know, of course, that this has been an ongoing conflict. As you've just said now, it's been over 50 years now that this has been an ongoing battle. But right now, also looking at the hatred towards the Jewish community in general, what's your response to that?
We are against any kind of discrimination. We are people that are living under apartheid. We will not, we led an ethical and principled revolution. We are against any kind of discrimination, any kind of anti-Semitism, any kind of hatred waves against any human being. Unfortunately, they are harvesting what they have been planting. The equation is easy, as I mentioned.
What does it mean? What do you mean by that, Ambassador, that they are harvesting what they've sowed? Who's harvesting what they've sowed?
The Israelis. If you are an occupying power, if you are dehumanizing people on a daily basis, now it's not only about the mainstream media. People, especially youngsters, young generations, now they have an open platforms on social media. Now you cannot hide the truth. You can see what is going on the Palestinian land, and people get sympathize with the Palestinian people because they are seeing without waffles, without creams, what's going on in Palestine.
Yeah.
And this what leads to what's going on in the international arena right now.
A final one,
Ambassador. You cannot hide truth.
A final one, Ambassador, of course, trying to find a solution to this conflict. Do you think that South Africa could play a mediation role at all? And do you think that a two-state solution is still possible?
Definitely, two-state solution is still possible because it's the only international backed up solution that is still on the table. And when there is a political will by the international community, peace and two-state solution can prevail. Unfortunately, what we are seeing now is that two blocks, the Western community, US, and some other, the European Union in general, they are backing Israel, and they are like turning a blind eye to the Palestinian right to self-defense. Which is the opposite of what's happening when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. Unfortunately, hypocrisy makes it even difficult to reach to a point where we can reach peace in the Middle East. And they know that the peace and stability in Palestine is the key for peace and stability in the Middle East, in the region, and in the world also. So, as a Palestinian and as a human being, as an ambassador, I would love to see an end for this. Nobody wants to see his children, his people, his nation dying on yearly basis. As I mentioned, Gaza has been subjected to 5 consecutive wars during the past 15 years. Nobody of us, as humans, as Palestinians, want to see this happen. I don't want to see my kids dying. Yeah. I don't want to see my family, my brothers, the people of Palestine dying. We need to find a solution. We need to find a just and fair international community that can bring the two people into direct negotiation to find a solution. And it's not a rocket. As I mentioned, the Oslo Accord is clear. The borders of the state of Palestine are clear. Why every day you need to grab Palestinian land for the sake of a settlement project that is, according to international law, is illegal?
Thank you so much for your time. That is the Palestinian Ambassador to South Africa, Hanan Jarrar.